Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and good night. Excuse my voice, I sound probably super sick. I'm not super sick. I just have a runny nose and I sneeze. So be prepared for that. I am sorry about the last week or two. I'm probably going to get this podcast out today. I want to try to post it today. It's one day late, Thursday, so sorry about that. But better late than never. And I want to go hard and I want to keep up. It would be ideal to say that I want to do more than one a week. But, I don't know. I just got to keep up once a week. We'll see. So, a lot of things have happened. The weather has changed a lot around here. We've gone from blizzard to 80 degrees in a matter of a week. We had 2 feet of snow and then it all melted. And then it snowed again and then it melted and now we're no snow, and we've been outside in 50 degree, 60 degree weather, which is nice, and enjoying that. It's kind of like a touch of spring, which I'm loving, absolutely loving right now. And my son and I go on walks every single day for about 2 hours a day, which is amazing. He loves it. I love it. Everybody's happy. And it makes him tired. He sleeps better. So great. Let's, this week, today I'm going to be talking about my experience. I did, a couple weeks ago, my husband and I did this no technology, no entertainment technology situation. Not no technology, but no entertainment technology. So, not no entertainment, but not no technology, but no entertainment technology. So, we were not able to watch any movies, any TV, any social media, any YouTube, this sort of thing, for a week. We just kind of took a fast to just not be consumed by TV and have it on all day and be watching all day and on social media and on YouTube all day, in our free time. So that was cleansing, I guess you could say. It was different. It was hard, that's for sure. My experience, the first, I did, of course I have to yawn. I don't understand what it is about podcasting that makes me yawn. I don't understand it. I just don't get it. Anyways, it's not that late. It's 8 p.m. Although I have been going to bed early. I don't know. Anywho, this is the time when I can do the podcasts these days, so this is what I'm going to do. It would be ideal to do them in the morning, but then I have a screaming baby or a talking baby or a toys rustling, and you've heard that before, and that's not as much fun, I'm sure. But maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe you have kids and it doesn't bother you, but if you don't have kids, that'd be annoying. So it's nice to be in a nice, quiet environment, and this is the only time, which it's kind of late for me, but it's not that late. Anyways, okay, I've done these at midnight and, been falling asleep while doing them. Thank goodness I don't have video. I'm not that big of a podcast, or in general, I'm just not doing the video. Anyways, I am rambling, and I'm sorry about that. So, back to what I was talking about. It was actually the first few days, it was hard because my reflex was to just get on, like, I have 5 minutes, so, you know, I'm rocking the baby to sleep a little bit, or I'm trying to calm him before I lay him in his crib. You know, I wanted to hop on social media, you know, have my headphones in and just wait, you know, 5-10 minutes. And he's going to lay here, I'm going to rock, and I'm just going to flip through social media. No, I can't, because I'm fasting. So I couldn't do that. It's just so annoying. I would like want to, let's see, like I would go to shower and need to have my son, you know, be occupied for a few minutes, but we're not watching TV, so what do? You know, like I'm just trying to like get him to be entertainment, put him in a jumper so he doesn't run around, because, you know, if I get up early with the baby, so he is not up yet, and I am just trying to entertain him while I shower, you know, and so he's not upset. You know, he did okay, but he didn't really, you know, like it by being by himself locked in this jumper while I'm not there anymore. He couldn't come follow me, whatever. He ended up stopped crying, but, you know, it was still difficult. I think part of it was like, you know, people say if you don't keep up with your YouTube channel, it will die, you know, and you don't consistently post. That was something I thought about, but, you know, it is what it is. It can't be. It actually, there was a grace, because I thought about it, but I wasn't actually like super worried about it. It is what it is, and this is what we feel like we're supposed to do, so yeah. And I didn't post, I didn't make videos. Although that was in our thing that, oh, sorry, that noise, I hit the microphone. That was in something that we talked about prior, that I could have an outlet, or I could make content, I could make a YouTube video, I could make a podcast. Although I ended up not doing that in that time. I did, however, start doing other hobbies, I guess. I had to sneeze, so I had to edit that, but I had to sneeze. But I'm back now. Yeah. So I started doing new hobbies. Well, not new, just picked up old hobbies. I started playing guitar again. You know, I was kind of learning guitar, I guess you could say, in 2019 and in 2020. I started playing guitar for 15 minutes every couple hours. I would play each day, several hours a day. Not the whole hour, but like 15 minutes of the hour. And just learn. I was learning, like, I'm no longer a slave to sin, that whatever, I'm a child of God, that song, different songs, and, you know, it was good, and I really felt that was something the Lord was wanting me to do, and then, but so this was back in 2019 and 2020, but then, you know, since I wasn't doing technology, I wasn't distracted by watching TV or movies or anything other thing, social media. I you know, started playing guitar every 15-20 minutes. But I mean when you don't have technology, bro, like you need something else to do to stimulate that and fill that void. Now, whether or not you fill that void, you know, that's up to you. You know, I probably shouldn't have filled it necessarily all the time, which I didn't. I did spend more time with the Lord, which was the point. But playing guitar really felt and feels like a time for me to worship the Lord, which I loved that, I love that. And honestly, I need to do it more, even now that I am okay to watch technology or TV or social media, and I'm past that. I need to continue to play guitar, although Everest was fascinated with it, so he would try to pull on the strings and totally break it, whatever. But it is something that I do need to keep up with now. And I realize that. Even during this podcast, I'm recognizing that. I found out, that I love painting with acrylics more than I thought. And I want to do that even now, more often than not. I do gather a bunch of women in my community every once a month to paint. But in my heart of hearts, it's like I want to paint more often than that. And I know that my husband's mother loves to paint too, and so that's always an option. It just is sometimes hard with the child, my kid, to have an opportunity to go paint, even with her, and have someone watch Everest, you know what I'm saying? But he could technically play at her house while we paint, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah. I found out, I was getting through this one book. It's a Christian fiction book. It was really, really good. And it kind of got me on this, reading deal every single day. So that was really good, reading a chapter a day. It was awesome, but that book was really good, and it kind of picked up steam, and it ended up being really, really good. Now, I did check out another book because I was in this groove of reading a chapter a day, and I probably checked it out over a week ago, and I haven't even cracked it open. I was reading a different book that I already had at home that is relatively good. And I was only reading 10 pages a day because I was also doing 75 hard. So in that, you read 10 pages a day. What else? My time with the Lord was good. I don't know if I have particularly... I wasn't really, doing the fast to hear a certain something from the Lord or get an answer for anything. I think it was just that I was getting too much into technology, and my husband was too, that we were relying too much on technology, too much TV, too much social media to entertain ourselves and stimulate our senses, that we needed to take a step back and hear the Lord just in general, ourselves, and also just to be not stimulated, 24/7 from all that technology. So I want to jump into and kind of switch gears here. I kind of wrote some notes about a few things. So, number one, the number one thing that I did want from the fast was to be able to hear the Lord. And that's kind of my aim, and that also I just realized I was really focusing on social media too much in my life, and it was becoming a problem. And I was also realizing that social media was kind of just numbing my spiritual senses to be able to hear the Lord. And I really wanted to hear the Lord. I just feel like social media really clouds your mind, clouds your heart, it just clouds things, right? So switching gears, I started asking myself this question: why does social media make it hard to hear God? And I want to talk a little bit more about that. And I have a few more questions, but I just want to start with that. So, why does social media make it hard to hear God? Now, social media and technology kind of make it hard for me to hear God myself. I'm not saying this is for everybody, but I do think there is a level of truth in this for everyone. I'm not saying that if you watch social media and you watch movies that you can't hear the Lord. I'm not saying that at all. I do think that you become so stimulated from outside sources that you need to, like, in order for your brain to come up with, like, things itself and to not be as stimulated, it's like going and it's like still rolling on its own in a way that it causes your brain to not work and be as sharp because it's numb to it. It's numb to the world around it. Whereas, like, when you are not on social media, everyone ever that says they get off of social media and off of TV and off of technology like this, they just become more sharp, more aware, more spiritual aligned with the Lord, more spiritually awake, these kinds of things. So, number one, why does social media make it hard to hear God? I think the first thing, these are in no particular order, but the first thing that makes it hard to hear God when you're on social media is that you're focused on whatever pops up on your For You page and not on Him. When you're focused on things that are on social media or your For You page or the TV or, a movie, you become consumed by what you're watching. It starts to change your perspective. It changes how you think. It changes how you act and how you want to act and how you perceive things and how you want to be perceived. Because every time we consume an idea, we consume influence from the world around us, we either like that thing in our mind or we don't. It's kind of like Tinder in a way. It's like swipe right or swipe left. Yes or no. Do you like what you're seeing or don't you? And if you like it, they're almost always in our minds. It's like, oh, I want to be like that. It's almost like if you swipe right, it's like you want that and you want to be like that and you want to emulate that, if that makes sense. So you're focused on what you're looking at and in turn wanting to be like what you're seeing. So if you're focused on Jesus, you're just wanting to be like Jesus and you're giving your attention to Jesus. What is prayer? Side note, prayer is giving your attention to something. It's, basically giving your attention to something or someone. And so, you could be talking to the Lord or giving your attention to Him, but we often will give our attention to other things. I'm not saying you're praying to your social media, whatever, but you get the point, being focused on God rather than on your For You page or your scrolling on Instagram changes your perspective to be like Him and to hear His voice. Not only that, but if you're focused on Him, you will start to look more like Him and be like Him automatically. Because you're gonna want to be like what you're focused on. Anyways, I beat that dead horse to a pulp here. Okay. I think, like I said before, we get consumed. It's all consuming. It's all like, I heard someone, I was just listening to another podcast today, and they talked about how you are using 3 senses when you scroll on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. Everything has its like emulation or like copycat of TikTok, like YouTube. Everything has reels now, right? So, case in point, you are using your eyes to see, your ears to hear, and your finger to touch. That's 3 senses you're using when you are looking at reels, which are 15 to 30 second long clips, sometimes 5 seconds, 5 to 30 second clips. So that's all your attention can give. That's all you have is, that amount of time, 5 to 30 seconds, and then it's on to the next one, right? So that makes your attention span just so short. And it's making it so you can't pay attention to anything. It's not that short, 5 to 30 seconds, and then you need to switch. I mean, it was clever on TikTok's part, but destructive in a way. So, you can't really do other things while on TikTok or on YouTube Reels, you know what I'm saying? Because it's taking up half of your senses, all of your attention to do that, We talk about whatever you're seeing on social media instead of Jesus. I mean, it's true. You're watching all these things, and then you go meet with somebody for coffee after watching YouTube and TikTok and Facebook and Instagram Reels for an hour at home. Like, that's what you're gonna be thinking of. Good or bad things, that's what you're thinking of, and that's what you might end up talking about or wanting to talk about or being interested in. But if you just got done spending time with the Lord, I mean, that's what you're going to want to talk about when you meet with this person, You know what? I'm getting so tired. It's crazy. I think some of it is that we get obsessed with social media. It becomes our only way of entertaining ourselves. It becomes our reflex, our default, to turn on a movie while we wash dishes or vacuum or wait at a doctor's appointment, either, flipping through your social media or seeing what people are doing or just to kill time, It becomes a habit, a reflex, an obsession in a way. Maybe it's an obsession to grow on social media. Maybe it's an obsession to see other people. Maybe it's an obsession to compare. Maybe it's an obsession to self-love. Maybe it's an obsession to get new things. Whatever it is for each person, it becomes an obsession, I feel like. I feel like I already talked about this next topic, but we talk about whatever we're watching, the movie, the TV, the newest show, the newest movie, and it really impacted you and you were super stimulated from it, and we don't say that like that, but that's what it is. And you should want to share it with people rather than, your time with the Lord or what you've been learning about the Lord because you've been too busy watching XYZ show to talk about that instead of talking about what you're learning and growing in the Lord, you know. Your mind is filled with it. That means you're thinking about it. I remember when I watched a good show and I would think about what they're doing all day long. You know what I mean? And yeah, it's a show. They're not doing things all day long. It's a show. You know? Whereas if I was thinking about the Lord, you do have that privilege to know what he's doing or think about what he's doing all day long and to just be in communion with him all the time, you know? That would be such a good thing. Next, we get a dopamine drip every time we are on the social media or we're watching a good feel-good movie or any movie. If you watch a scary movie, you get a drip, you know, because you were scared, and adrenaline. And a sad movie, you get a different kind of drip. And having a feel-good movie, another kind of drip, you know what I mean? So if you're on social media and you see, you know, get a bunch of likes or comments, or you're looking at other people's, it's a dopamine drip, you know, whatever it is. You get addicted to it, you know? And, you're addicted, so you want to go back and do it more. And maybe you're doing it for several hours a day, you know? Whereas that time, or even just an hour of that time, could have been spent with the Lord versus spending it on social media where you get nothing back from it, you know? We become overstimulated. I think this reminds me, I kind of made a note about CoComelon and how this kind of compares to like kids, how kids can be they tell you, the doctors, they can be overstimulated, which causes them to get overtired and cranky and behave badly. And CoComelon, I guess, is a show where makes kids super extra stimulated, which is why they also zombie out when they watch CoComelon, because the clips move quick, and so it's constantly stimulating, like overstimulating for kids, which has led to, they say, bad behavior. So I got an article just on Google, not a very extensive research, so, you know, whatever. It says some child development experts confirmed that the show CoComelon is hyper-stimulating and can cause addiction as the result. An expert in early childhood said development and education claimed the show was not only overstimulating, it's also likely to cause behavioral problems and attention problems. So, it was very shocking for me and a little discouraging, because Everest obviously loves that show because it's crazy overstimulating. But, and to hear that it maybe causes behavioral issues, which when I think about it, I remember when I was a kid, like I would watch, like binge, like The Office or something, or binge a TV show, a couple TV shows. And I would leave whatever show or, you know, that binge on TV or movies or whatever, and I would come out feeling not happy with myself, sometimes depressed in a mild way, not like, well, thick, deep depression, but like sad, you know, come away feeling not very good about myself, come away feeling like, oh, I didn't do anything, I wasted all that time. I would come away feeling restless and not having meaning or purpose in my life. Even as a kid, you know, all these emotions and feelings but not knowing what it was or why I was feeling that way. It's just interesting. I want to go on, next thing here, like why we shouldn't do social media or technology or even all the time, all day, you know what I mean? Why we shouldn't be doing it. So the first thing is, if you don't do social media, or if you were to do something like this, a social media or technology, entertainment fast, your mind is free to think for itself and not have information thrown at it and told it what to do and what to think and how to think. It would be that your mind gets to freely think and choose and reason for itself, which is a beautiful thing. I just feel like you're more engaged. You can think clearer. Yeah. When you aren't on social media, you have less stimulation. It is hard at first, but it gets easier because you start to find things that you like to do outside of. Excuse me, another yawn. Outside of like watching a movie, or I went on walks a lot with my son during that time. We just walked and walked and walked, and then I got him out of his stroller and we walked and walked and walked and went to playgrounds, and we just did a lot more, outside. We just loved that. It was good. You're no longer addicted to that thing. I mentioned this before, but I felt like I was doing so many other entertaining things, like playing guitar or painting or going for super long walks or hanging out with people more than being on social media or watching a movie, that it was really good for my heart, really good for my mind to be busy doing other things rather than just being idle and receiving things, but to be giving out in a way, to be giving away part of your life rather than just taking. And for what? Taking for what? It's better to give in that way. I found that I was playing with my child more. I think when there's a movie on, you'll sit and play, but you'll sometimes get consumed by the TV or by your phone, if you're on your phone. And I just found, I'm playing with my kid, sitting down on the floor and building Legos and letting him tear it down, and he loves when I get down on the floor to play. I think there's nothing like it, and you might not have the privilege. It's gonna go away soon, so why not? Next, a short attention span. I mean, I think most people know this by now, or if not everybody, but just from, the introduction of TikTok in 2020, all the other social medias have, jumped on the bandwagon of the real situation. If you look at Instagram, you can find it on Facebook, YouTube, everywhere. It's like my body knows I'm podcasting. I don't know if that's a sign or what that means, but it's like I was super peppy, and I drank like a huge drink from my Starbucks drink, and I showered, and I did all these things to like pep me up, and I still just yawned. I don't know if it's just, I don't know. Anywho, so the real situation, it's like 30 seconds, 5 to 30 seconds worth of content, and then the next thing, you get the next little snippet of content. And honestly, it makes our attentions, like, if we're not getting new information like that fast, then we're bored, or we are not able to pay attention, which is horrible, honestly, for school, for kids, for kids in school, for us trying to wait. Like, when I was doing no social media and I didn't have some sort of stimulation, I was reaching for my phone as a default to find a social media, to find some sort of entertainment, So I'm looking through old texts, I'm looking through my Amazon basket, I'm looking through to see what I've ordered in the past, like trying to find something for some sort of entertainment, bro. Like looking through old apps, looking through photos and old videos as if they're new content, and honestly, I should have been like siphoning through all my photos during that time to like get rid of old photos. That's what I should have done, because now we're back on social media, so now we have all this other stuff that is entertainment, and I should have cleaned out my photos because I still have to do that project. I found other projects to do, but honestly, that's what I should have devoted my time to, because now I have to do it, and there's a million other things that are available in addition. But regardless, our attention span is weak, bro, and it's been weakened from TikTok, essentially, and the likes of all the other social medias that have done that. In general, social media, we are inundated with crazy amounts of information at crazy amounts of speeds. I am not speaking very well, unfortunately. I'm sorry. But it makes our attention span lower, which isn't good. My attention span was already whacked out in college, People in high school thought I had ADHD, I just had a lot of energy. That's all that was. But if something is boring, I don't pay attention anyways. I think that's normal for anyone. I'm sure there are people that can really pay attention to boring things, but I have a hard time paying attention to super boring things. But again, I think that's normal, all right? I think that's super normal. It's probably a little bit more normal now because of the social media situation, but anywho. Okay, next. You won't be connected to your phone, or hardly at all, when you're not on social media. I think I definitely felt less of a connection to my phone, or need to carry it or be on it, because I really felt when I would search, like grasping for some sort of entertainment, because I, like, in the in-between stages where I'm waiting for something, or where I have a little bit of time, the example I gave, like, I'm not sitting in the living room. I'm obviously at that time couldn't watch movies, but like, excuse me, of course I have to yawn in the most crucial time. No, it's not. But I'm not sitting at the kitchen table or the island to like sit down and read or work or whatever. I am sitting in my chair, in the rocking chair, rocking the baby to sleep, where I'm only there for a very temporary time, which I brought my phone, but I'm not able to just sit and scroll a little bit on social media. I have to just wait, and I can't be looking at anything. So I just randomly look through apps. It's just that time frame that just like grasping for some sort of entertainment. When honestly, why couldn't I just sit and let my mind wander? Why couldn't I just sit and worship the Lord? Why couldn't I just sit and thank the Lord? Why couldn't I just sit and be, right? And be content. And I did focus. When I did focus, I was able to do that. But as a default, it wasn't that way. It was grasping for entertainment, grasping for some sort of something to numb or just pass the time or just get me to the other side of the waiting period I had. You know what I mean? But I found that when I didn't need my phone, I would leave it everywhere. I would leave it places because it would be frustrating to look on my phone and find, oh, there's nothing here for me to look at. It's just a dang phone. And I don't have anyone, I'm not texting anyone right now, or I'm not trying to call anyone right now, so what is the point of this thing when I don't have social media? That's literally the thoughts I had, was what is the point of my phone if not for social media? And which is crazy because it's not the initial reason we had a phone. It was just to contact like via on the talk, you know, and then later text. But that's all you really needed is talk and text, right? Like those T69 flip phones. Honestly, I should go back to that. It would make life so much simpler. Honestly. In a way, it would be like whenever, like I think of so many things a day where I'm just wondering about something, where if I didn't have a smartphone and just the T69 phone, like the flip phone, some of you probably don't even know what T69 is. That is the first phones, like the first cell phones, not the first cell phones, but like the first, like the Razor, or like the first phones that didn't have internet on them yet, but they did, but it was super expensive. But it was like the first phones were like, not the brick phones, like in the 80s or whatever, early 90s, but like the first flip phones in the early 2000s, those kind of phones, where they didn't really have internet on them yet, but they had music. You could buy music. You could listen to like 4 songs or whatever music you bought. It was kind of like MP3 players. Those were like the newest phones. Like the Razors was one of the new ones. A little bit later, they had like the Kickstart or the Sidekick. Oh my gosh, I so wanted that phone. But again, they barely had internet on them. What am I trying to say? So T69. That's what I'm trying to say. These phones that were, these flip phones, it's a way of typing. So you would type with one hand, and the numbers that you would dial also had 3 letters on them, and you would text using those 3 letters, and the phone kind of knew what the words were, and you could pick through the words, and it would give you options. Once you type it in, like there's so many letters, it gives you all the options of the words with the letter combination you gave it, and then you pick it. And honestly, I feel like it was like you could get really fast. People must be faster now with 2 fingers. I can't imagine that people are faster with one hand. But honestly, people could go really fast with T69, which is the way of typing, what I just explained. Anyways, super nostalgic, super cute, super fun. My early teen stage, you know. Anyway, I felt like that. Like, you didn't need to carry your phone on you. You weren't on your phone all the time back then. Like, this is totally a random rabbit trail, but like, I loved having a phone when I was 16. That's when I first got a phone. I was 16, I was driving, so I had to help pay for it, but I loved being able to text somebody without saying it out loud, and then being able to communicate with like my best friend a seat away during class. This was before they were like teachers didn't really catch on to the whole texting thing or how that interfered with class, so you could have your phone in class kind of. They didn't really want it, but you could kind of hide it. You know what I mean? And they were starting to like crack down on like taking phones away and all that kind of thing. But I thought it was like the coolest thing, like another language. Like I'm texting and talking to my friend next to me in class and nobody knows about it but her and I. Like crazy. That was like mind-boggling to me and so special. I don't know why. It just was. Anyways, continue. Let's see. Yeah, so to conclude that whole point, people just weren't, like, you don't feel as connected when you don't have the social media on it. And it's nice, honestly. You actually pay attention to the world around you, honestly. I feel like you have a higher quality of life in a lot of ways, in every way, without social media. Obviously, there's a million benefits to social media, too, but there's also 1,000,001 benefits, probably, to not having social media. Now, whether you get off it or not, whatever, but, like, I feel like you do have a higher quality without it because you're not worried, you're not, like, in a way you don't compare yourself to as many people or you're not comparing yourself all the time. Now, maybe it's a subconscious thing because when I see, like, when I'm scrolling through social media, I'm not always consciously comparing myself to people. But maybe I am. It has to be subconscious. I think I'm just receiving the information and I'm just thinking. But I think in a way I know that I do. Because lately I've been seeing, like, certain things and I'm like, oh yeah, like, I think that, you know. So I think, oh yeah, I would like my life like this or whatever. So I must be comparing, which is not healthy, you know. So higher quality of life without it. You are just more present in life. You know, I feel like you have lots of opportunity to do other things, like pick up new hobbies, hang out with people more, just do things in life instead of watching life pass you by, in a way. I feel like I really got caught up in social media where I would get caught up for an hour at a time, 2 hours at a time, 3 hours. Like I would start just being on social media just at the end of the day and it would go like 2 hours would just fly by. And I wasn't even on TikTok because I don't have a TikTok. Thank you, Jesus. Although there are times where I wish I did have a TikTok, but yeah, anyways. So I just think you do different. I feel like you're a little bit more productive without social media because in your free time, not necessarily like you could have social media and still be super productive in real life. Don't get me wrong, 100%. But I feel like the opportunity to be unproductive is much higher when you have social media. The opportunity to slack on your job or on the things that you need to get done, like maybe cleaning where you don't really want to do it, you know, but you know you need to, but then, or homework or something like that, but then social media is so much more fun and it's relaxing and it's just easy going and it's time consuming, like in the sense of it sucks all your time up. Maybe that's not the right word, but it is time consuming because it sucks all your time out without you even noticing it because it's only 30 seconds at a time. But it all adds up super, super, super fast. So I already kind of mentioned this, but you stop comparing yourself to other people. You just live your own life, and you're grateful for your own life. You're happy and you're content in your own life. You're working on yourself. You're working on your heart, your time with the Lord. You're working on your own space. You're not inundated with information all day long. You're not worried about all the things going wrong in the world. I mean, we definitely need to be praying about it, but you have more time to pray, honestly, not being on social media. You have just a lot more time for real life things. And it's not like the time isn't there when you have social media. It is. I think it's just, it can be harder to step away from something so addicting, if that makes sense. Okay. It was super hard at first, when I first started getting off social media. I think I already mentioned this, but ran right to my phone. It was really hard in the sense of I would see other people on social media, or I would see other people watching a movie, or other people talking about TV, or like I'd just go over to a neighbor's house and they would have their kids watching TV, and it's like, oh, like I can't be watching this. Or like a family get together and they're watching TV. And so, I mean, like all these things where other people are doing it, and it's like, oh, you can't. But you don't want to stop other people from doing it because it's like you. But you don't want to not hang out with other people because you're not doing it. I mean, there's stuff like weird stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? That was really hard. I already mentioned this, like it was such a default to get on social media. That was hard to break. It's crazy because my mind actually like ached to be on it. Like I just like wanted to be on it. I wanted to see what was going on. I wanted to learn new things from it. I wanted to just pass the time with social media. It's so crazy because like even in high school, they did have like MySpace and stuff when I was in high school, but it wasn't as time consuming, and you couldn't hardly get on it because you had to be on a computer to do it. They didn't have like smartphones at that time. So in a way, social media wasn't that big of a problem, even though there was social media back then. So, but my mind, like, it sounds so horrible and weird, but like it ached to be on social media. I really wanted to be on social media, you know, but I didn't. I did, like, because of the boredom, but I didn't. I did find that it was super hard to avoid social media in public. I kind of already mentioned this. If you go to a restaurant, like say B-Dubs or whatever, you just have to avoid that place. Different restaurants have TVs. It was hard. All the things I mentioned, being at other people's houses, interacting with other people during it could really mess things up or make it more challenging, you know. Hearing about what other people are talking about, or hearing about what other people are doing and watching, that was really hard. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like people make more time for the Lord and for God, more space for Him. I feel like people are better at it when you're off social media. I feel like the things of the world are less of a priority. I feel like you're more grounded, that you're more focused on things above. I think your focus is aligned properly when you're off social media. I feel like your mind buzzes, and it's I feel like a lot of people say that they have anxiety when they get off like Instagram, or especially TikTok. TikTok's the worst. There's got to be a spirit behind that. But like, people end up becoming like super, like, I've listened to podcasts where they talk about how they have like tons of anxiety like after being on TikTok or Instagram. I just think there's probably more to it than I know, but one of the things is just comparing yourself to other people and feeling like you're not good enough, you know, just from watching other people live their life on social media, like the highlight reel. So bear with me. Sorry about the yawning. It's I don't know. Need more Starbucks, but I'm not gonna drink it now. I'm gonna push through, you know. Okay. I think your mind isn't fuzzy or stimulated with fluff. I love that I said this. I must have watched Winnie the Pooh recently. I feel like my mind gets fuzzy and way too overstimulated. I think that's the overstimulation as an adult. My mind feels fuzzy where I can't think of things. I'm not as sharp. I feel like I have nothing to say a lot of times because what I'm putting in my mind, things I'm filling myself with, are useless, and to talk about those things outside of, you know, other people, like, people don't watch the exact same things. Like my husband, sorry, he's not watching the same exact people on social media as I am. So how is he, like, for me to, like, oh, this thing is funny, and yeah, it's okay to, like, share whatever. It's not like there's anything wrong with that. But I think it's so important to be, like, learning and growing outside of social media. Like, I know that sounds funny, but in a way it's not. It's like, grow in other ways rather than random things you learn on social media. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean that in a mean way, like, to myself or you or anyone. But I'm just saying, like, yeah, like, let's grow outside of social media, you know? As a country, as a society, as a generation, you know, that's a big one. I feel like your mind is clearer. You have a clear thought process. I feel like you're sharper when you're off social media. There's something about not being stimulated by technology in that way, with the short jumps of information and needing more and getting that dopamine drip and then needing more of that dopamine drip, whatever, from your brain naturally, you know? I just think your mind is on point without social media, for whatever reason. Let's see. I feel like there's a disconnect somehow between you and God while you consume tons of social media. Yeah, I would definitely, I mean, this is something that I was talking about. I think there is a disconnect when you are consuming lots of different media, because you're not in tune with his world, with his kingdom. You're in tune with the world here and what's going on and other people's lives, when all you need to be focused on is Jesus. You know what I'm saying? Like, just focus on him. But I mean, the world and all the things going on really can get your perspective off and make you think irrationally, you know? I think you have more peace while off social media. Again, you're not comparing yourself to millions and millions of people every day. Like, you are just in your world and you're just living your own life. And I feel like your thoughts are clearer, more like you're able to get more done. I feel like you feel better about yourself simply because you got more done, you know? Okay, fun fact. I need to stand up and podcast these days. I don't know why, but I seem to get so tired when I podcast. It's probably because it's late at night. But the funniest thing just happened. So I was getting really sleepy, so I went outside. I was going to take a break. And I started talking to my husband, and I was off the chain, like so awake. I did have a drink of Starbucks, but it's not like the most caffeinated drink ever. And I was awake, and I'm standing, and I'm talking to him, and I'm talking his ear off, and he's like trying to chill and be quiet and not talk too much, and I'm like talking. And he's like, man, you need to stand up and podcast. Well, that's what I'm doing now. I'm standing up and podcasting. It doesn't help. It does help that it feels like 50 degrees in this room. The heat is not working. So that's kind of keeping me awake as well. And it's super early in the night. It's like 8 o'clock or something. So anyways, I had to tell you that quick story. Okay, next. Because I was like, I'm literally falling asleep, and it's been like, I haven't been recording that much this night because I had to break this up because I kept trying to podcast at night, which this is the only time that works. And maybe I need to just podcast in the morning and then work at night only. I may need to rearrange my schedule, okay? Okay, I'm just trying to figure this out. Okay, anyways, next. I feel like you make people in your life more of a priority when you're not on social media. I feel like instead of, you could go, I mean, if you really wanted to introvert and that's why you're on social media, then okay, well, you're going to be away from people no matter what. But you might be on social media and not want to go do something. But if you're not on social media and you know, you don't have the option to be on social media, or you're just not giving yourself, you have a slot or an allotted time for being on social media, and otherwise after that you're not, you will go on the walks. People invite you to go to the library. People invite you to go to coffee. People invite you to go do stuff. You're going to go do it. Or you might make the plans yourself. I mean, I just feel like you will want to go do stuff. Like, I found myself wanting to go do things more because I didn't want to sit at home because there was nothing for me to do besides like the hobbies that I always did, like playing guitar, and I did 15 minutes of it or whatever, like, and then I'm done for now, or you know, and I worked for several hours and then I'm done for now. So now there's, you know, and we read the books. I mean, there's lots to do in our house, but when you do all those things each and every day, you want to get out. And even if you can go, you are taking a break from a few things that you're doing in your house, but someone invites you to go walk down to the nearest coffee shop and play at the playground with your kids, like, yeah, you're gonna do that because you are not able to watch TV, you're not able to be on social media, you're not able to do those things, so you are more likely to I'm gonna use this time where someone invited me to go to the coffee shop, get a coffee, hang out with neighbors, hang out with the neighbor kids, and spend some time there, and then I'll come back to whatever I was doing, laundry, etc., etc. You know what I mean? So I feel like you just make people more of a priority, which is, people are, everything after Jesus. So, anyway, I think I found myself spending a lot less time inside, even when it was snowing, because during the time when we were doing no social media, it was snowing out. So we spent a lot of time outside, even, in the snow. Like, I was like, okay, it snowed like a foot, so now I'm going to go shovel right away in the morning and wipe off the car and make a trail to the garbage and make a trail around the car in case we have to go. And then I found, like, my mom actually mentioned it, like, taking beet juice, because I cooked a bunch of beets, but taking that beet juice and putting it in like squirt bottles and stuff, and then spraying the snow with like a natural dye all over the yard, and it was so much fun. Like, just thinking of new things for my baby and I, or even Caleb and I, to go do, and like, we had a snowball fight out in the snow, whereas like normally I think we would probably just watch a movie, you know what I mean? So, and stay inside when you're inside all day during a blizzard, but because of the no social media, we took the opportunity to be outside as much as we could. And Everest and I went out multiple times in a day. I mean, he loves being outside. He's not too much into TV yet. It doesn't always captivate him. Only certain shows will captivate him. So he's a little bit more immune to the whole social media thing, because certain shows just don't captivate him, or he'll just go do something else and get into trouble. So him and I are outside, rain or shine or sun. We're outside a few times a day because it really wears him out, and it's stimulating enough, but it's healthy stimulation, So, yeah. Okay. Ooh, my phone is low on battery. I think you read more. I found myself really wanting to get into a good book. I found myself reading, a chapter a day, which I never really did that. I did that like a few years ago, but since then, like, I really didn't read as much. And so on my own, I was part of a community that read a lot, and since then, a few years later, I just haven't been a part of that same community. And so it's like, okay, well, even though I'm not in a community that's reading, I'm finding myself reading. I found myself reading a lot more and getting into, like, wanting to go to the library and reading a chapter a day, or 10 pages a day with 75 hard that I'm doing. Anyways, so, yeah. I already mentioned this. I feel like your mind works better because you're not all stimulated, you're not all fuzzy. You think clearer. I think less stimulation causes you to be able to have more freedom to be able to hear the Lord. I feel like it's not inundated with random information that makes you start to think about, like, just pointless things online. Whereas, I mean, there's always a lot of good information on social media, don't get me wrong, there is, but there is also a lot of pointless information. So I think it's a distraction. I think it's makes you fuzzy. I mean, I found I was just much more clear in my mind, and this isn't maybe for everybody how it will work with everybody, but I do believe it works for most people, and it probably is for most people. I don't want to say 100% guarantee, whatever, but I really do feel like it is pretty good for most people. I feel like there's more time that you have to be with yourself, to be, not analyze, that's not the right word, but, like, self-reflect on things of the past, things you want to do in the future, things you want, that you want to be doing right now, and so your future self can thank you. Like you have time to self-reflect on your relationship with you and the Lord. You have time to self-reflect on what you've been up to and where you're at with the Lord right now, and just be with Him. You just have more time, more open time. Things really slow down when you're not completely distracted with media, and more time to be in the silence. I think a lot of people are afraid to be alone, to be silent, to hear their own thoughts. I think that can be really frightening and really torturous for some people, which is also why people want to numb themselves with movies to escape and get into another world, escape their own life, because maybe they don't like what's going on in your life. But that's just it. If you have the opportunity to sit and be silent and not feel like you need to jump on your video game or whatever, but you're in the silent and you're with yourself and you're just spending time with the Lord, reflecting, you can make a change and begin to love your life and love the Lord in your life and change it to reflect how God has for you, because God has the best. And you can make a change in your life. You can. And it might just start with being alone with yourself and just talking about it with yourself and talking about it with the Lord, I once heard like a pastor say, silence is confidence in God. I thought that was crazy good, because being able to be silent, whether you hear Him or not, you're confident that He will speak. You're confident in your ability to be silent and to not have that extra crazy stimulation, because that extra stimulation is often a tool to numb, whether it's conscious or subconscious. It's like a drug, because drugs to people, or alcohol or drugs, numb you from the world and the life that you have right now, so that you don't have to actually live that life. But I think video games do that. I think movies do that. I think TV does that, and social media does that, because you get to jump into someone else's world. Books can do that for people too. I think in the movie Matilda, it's all the rage right now, but she did that with books. And so that can be an unhealthy relationship. You can find that with anything. You can probably numb yourself with anything. You could probably do it with like your kids and not live your own life, but live life through kids. That's not healthy either. But you're just raising your kids, and yeah, you have this unhealthy thing going on. Whatever, I'm saying. So social media can be a good thing if it's in moderation. So I'm not saying, it's completely bad, because it's not. I think where the world has gotten and where I was, and I want to stay there, and I, even since I did this no social media, I haven't been perfect. But I was too far into it, and we would wake up and we'd turn the TV on right away, and that's just too much. Before we would keep it, like during the no social media, we would wake up and Everest and I would be spending time with the Lord. I mean, even before I did that, I would wake up and spend time with the Lord, but then we would turn the TV on. You know what I mean? So it's too much. It's just too much. And we were consuming media way too much. So it was good to step back. We talked about, like, maybe if it got too much again, we would do it again, and we would step back again and say, hey, we need to reevaluate this. We're not, we're just doing too much of it, and we need to do this in moderation, Easier said than done, since, Anyways, I realized and I learned something tonight. I hope you did too. I learned that I podcast much better standing up, and I'm too sleepy. I don't know if I yawned once now that I said yawn, I really have to yawn. I totally jinxed it, y'all. But I don't think I yawned before that moment at all while I stood. So that is good. Which is not good because I really like to chill and sit while I podcast. But, well, it is what it is. So I hope you liked today's podcast. I hope it was helpful in any way or whatever. Please subscribe and please comment and leave a review. That'd be amazing. And I will see you next week.